Well, hello, my name's Mark David Stallard and welcome to I'm Alive Animation. Today I'm working on a stage for my latest project titled Title Pending? Title Pending. I'm alive, and I hold on to you. So the script for this piece calls for a couple of external views of a retirement home. One is an establishing shot, the other will be in front of the front door, and I'll likely need a third view as well, but I'll deal with that later. I've already created the retirement home building, which is at the central point of this stage. But I need to build the rest of the stage. Now I'm using a few reference images to guide me and help me get to where I need to be. Now if you're wondering if tracing reference images is cheating or not, check out this video here where I make my case. Link in the description if you can't find that one. Let's get creating. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. So the retirement home building is pretty much complete. It took me quite a while to actually get it to the way I want it, but we've got a near wing, and then I duplicated the near wing to make the far wing. Then I had to modify it to change the angle of it, because you can see it's at a different angle there. Take off the front door, which is actually a separate piece anyway. That's a separate piece, which I can just take it on and off there. So everything's in there, and it's all fairly straightforward. I want this to have a little bit of a cartoony feel to it, and as you can see from the windows, they are not they are irregular, even though I did copy paste and then resize them all. Same with the air conditioner, which is just three or four very basic shapes, but at a distance they actually look, they kind of build it together. And we can see we've got some gradients on the side, got some shadows and shading in there. It's all fairly straightforward, just takes time. This was actually used for reference that I knew what building I wanted to do. It took me a while to figure out which building I wanted. I went to Google Maps. I was able to get to the right angle to the right building, which is really just down the road from where I live here in Winnipeg. So this is the actual building. So what I did was I took the reference, and as you can see, I pretty much duplicated the structure of the building. The windows are basically more or less where the windows are. I've then found a door for reference at a different. I'm going to try and minimize this one. I'll get rid of it. Okay, that's the different door. I based that on for my reference. But what I did was I made it two doors instead of a one door, and you can kind of see how this looks here. If I show you that one, right, that's the different angle. So I built that door based on that image. So traced it the same way, but then I duplicated the door, flipped it on the on its axis, whichever that axis is, the vertical axis or horizontal axis rather. So and then just made the doorway a bit bigger, extended the stairs, and then I added a ramp, because this is an old people's home, so I need a ramp there. And then I just modified it, moving the points to get the right angles, so modifying the vector shapes to fit. So I've got an angle that looks this way, and then I've got an angle straight on, and that's basically the front of the building. So my character's going to hang out in front of the door, their car is at the side of the building because they need to load the car up, and so on. So that's kind of it. The first view is an establishing shot, and the second one is when they come back out, they'll be talking in front of the building. What I need to do now is, and I'm not going to worry about the front of the building, whatever I do on this level I will duplicate on the front of the building scene as well, as far as the rest of the stage is concerned. So what I need to do then is build this up. Well, I have one more thing. I have a sign, little plinth thing for the sign of the retirement home. Snowy roof retirement home. I'm clever. And what I've done is actually I've done a little add some keyframes in there just to see how this would work, but you can kind of get the feel if I just hit the play. We get a nice little bit of a parallax feel. If I scrub that, you can see the building at the back. A nice little parallax. The sign that's close to us is moving fast, and then the building at the back or the wing at the back is moving slower. For me, this works. I like the way this looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kill the animation. Just going to put the camera back to normal, or back to default. And I'm going to use the picture that I already have, the image that I have, and I'm going to use that to help me decide where I'm going to put the rest of the landscape. What am I going to add in? What am I going to take out? For the most part, I'm going to kind of duplicate what we've got there. So I'm just going to, we'll minimize some of this. You will notice that I've got multiple folders here, but this is the rest home outside stage, and not to be confused with the front door stage. I'll be working in this folder only for the rest of this video. So what I need is I'll need to do some of this, whatever's on the background there. We've got some houses and trees. We've got some houses and trees on the background and some on the side. We'll have some shrubs and bushes, and there are some shrubs and bushes there in the real world. I'll decide if I want to put those there or not. And I'll probably leave the front fairly open with just grass and some footpath or two. So I'm just going to go ahead and start building. I think I'll start with we'll start with the road and the driveway or the parking lot around the building. So we'll start by adding a vector. I'm going to put it behind the retirement home, and I'm just going to call that road, and we can always change names if we don't like them later. And I'm going to put this road underneath the building, so we're going to be, in this particular case, I'm going to turn off sharp corners because I want that to be a little bit more of a natural, less rigid look. And I'm going to go, actually I'm going to go behind the building here, and I'm going to go beyond there because I'm going to assume there's a parking lot way out there. I'm going to go way further than I'm likely to need, just in case, and I'm just going to block in the rest of the road. There we go. And then we have to use the Bezier handles to position around. So I'm just holding down Alt, moving the Bezier handles. I find that these are a little easier to manage if they're not all bulging out all over the place. Right, I'm not going to be overly picky. We can align things up later. Make the modifications. Don't stress about getting it absolutely perfect. So that's my road. I'm just going to create the shape, and I want a better color, so I'm going to shape select tool, go to the style tab there, get the eyedropper. I don't like the look of that color. That's a bit dark for my taste. That's a bit better. Okay. And then I'm just going to put that back there. Okay, now I'm going to put I think we'll put the curbs in now. Did I spell curbs properly? It's either a U or an E. I'm going to put the U. I can't remember. It was curb with the C, isn't it? Yes, and I'm a writer. Okay, I'm going to hide road because I don't want to see that at the moment. And I'm going to actually put the curbs in. And it'll be the foundation there. We'll put some grass on afterwards. And I'm going to use this layer for both sides of the road. This may not even show up when we do the final render, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm just going to use this as a rough. Look, there we've got the two sides of the curb. I'm going to decide where I want the gaps to be. So I don't want this to be a single shape all the way around, because it's going to be different colors all the way around, and it's easier to create the different colors. There'll be different color at one end than it will the other, just because that's how light works. Okay, and I'm going to just draw that side of the curb in, and again I'm going to hold Alt so I can move these Bezier handles independently. Again, as not a very high def image here. Breaks up when we get too close, but there we are. That's fine though. I'm just using it as a guide. I don't need it to be exactly the same. This is actually happening. This is not happening in the real world. It is a made-up world, although it's based on the. We'll be calling it Winnipeg, but it's not really. Here we are, and I'm just going to join some of these together. Ah, son of a... Right, there we go. And that's not quite where I want it, so I'm just going to add an extra point or two in so we can get a bit more control. And I got one more side of... I'm just going to... That'll do. You're not make it too big. Something I'll do, particularly when it starts getting fiddly. Now it's not too bad, but I'll just emphasize where those lines are going to go. I know I need a couple here. And then I can smooth those out of the way, create my shape. I can put a couple of points in where I need them. And then I can zoom in like this, and that way then, because what will happen is you'll come too close and it'll auto snap or auto weld in, and it gets annoying when you're trying to do smaller shapes. It's a little tip there, and then you can just always pull it in later. There we are, and then the annoying way the Bezier handles work. Okay, again, we're not looking particularly the style. You can tell by the style of the building I'm not really looking for photorealism. I want that kind of a sketchy kind of look to it, so I'm not going to overly stress this. Okay, we look good. I'm just going to turn these into different shapes here, so I've got something to so I can modify the colors and whatever. There we go. Okay, I think we're not too bad. Good, and then I'm going to roll this around here. We are going to have a sidewalk there, I think. Good, and we'll get that top shape. And then the bottom bit there. Okay, so this is an example there if it was going to snap in at the wrong place, so I want that as a separate piece. And now we can just tease these lines where we want them. Okay, I think I've got everything on that curve, but let's jump in there again. With the shape creation tool, let's select each shape. Now there are a couple of things I could do here. Is I could just go through and create all the shapes. Now they'll all be the same color. Or I can pick the color that's closest to what I want now, and then I could try and get it exact as I go. Something I'll sometimes do is I'll just pick any old color. Just any old color. I'm just using the default basic color palette there, and I'll often do this. I'm just going to show you. I don't need to do this here, but I'll show what I often do, just so I know each of these shapes are different shapes, and I can tell the difference between the shapes. And the more when you get a really complicated image or a complicated build here, when you got hundreds and hundreds of points and shapes all over the place, this can actually be very helpful just to get them created. And you can create them. I can see where each of them are, then I can go in and modify each one separately. There we go. You kind of get the idea. Just being careful to select the points for that shape. I think that's right. We'll see. There you go. Right, that's not the colors I'm sticking with, but it kind of gives you an idea of what I so I can see where all the shapes are. Does that make sense? And I think what I'd like to do at the back here, where I can see something's not quite looking right. Yeah, the zooming in and the picture just kind of goes all funny if you get too close, but that's just how the way it goes, unfortunately. And I'm just going to make this turn the corner. because I will probably, even though if we back up you can kind of see a little bit of curb there, I'm just going to hide that behind the grass when I get to build it. Too many points, so I'm just going to delete one or two. There we go. I need another point there. Okay, right, so I'm just going to hide that layer so I can select a color, if it's going to let me do it. Highlight the right one. And then I can select the color. Going to hide that, select that color there. That's close, isn't it? Then we'll select that color there. There you go, that's kind of working. So I could do that all the way down. But I'm just going to do this quickly. So I'm highlighting the shape with the shape select tool, hold down Control, and then I can, it'll just duplicate the color and the properties of the other shape. And we can do it pretty quick. So it's just again, just hold down Control. Did I say hold down Control? Now I'm going to bring back the road, because I know I want this to be a closer color to the road. Something like that. And I'm just going to darken that bit. Okay, I think we're in there. Then I'm going to I will leave the curb there. I'm going to put in the sidewalk. And again, I'm not going to stress too much with the straight lines, keep it fluid and bumpy. Right, and I'm just going to duplicate more or less where the sidewalk comes in. Although it does look like I'm drawing the grass, which is probably a more realistic what I'm drawing at the moment, I suppose. Okay, so maybe we'll put the sidewalk and the grass in the same layer. And I'm going to put the sidewalk layer behind the curbs. Okay, and so it doesn't really matter how exact those lines are. Something like that. And I'm just going to draw the sidewalk there. Actually, I think it's too high, isn't it? We'll bring that down there, and then we'll draw the rest of it up here. Okay, I'm going to just go up here for now. Right, so we got to be careful we don't get confused with between the real world and the newly drawn worlds, because we want the sidewalk to come up to the steps. So the sidewalk would likely come here. I'm just going to do that up to the ramp. Okay. Right, and now I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to draw some lines on the road so we get some differentiation between the paving concrete lines where they poured the concretes. right, and I'll decide if I want to do this line in here or this one in here. We can't see the door, so I don't know if it really is necessary, but we might want to. So I'm just going to put grass right under this building here. We'll come back, thank you. And then I'm just going to go make that all grass. Yeah, so you're not going to see these lines, so here, let's quickly create these up, create these shapes, see if I've missed anything. Right, and I'm just going to give that the grass color. I don't know if I like that grass color or not, but we can change it whenever we like. So I'm going to do all of the grass. There we go, with that big bit. Just going to make that grass a little darker. And oh, I've seen something I've missed. Well, I'm going to make that a little bit lighter actually. Where is it? There we go. There we go. I missed a couple of things. So I'm just going to join the path under the curb, and I didn't do this side of the grass. So just behind the curb, doesn't need to be too detailed. There we are, and then we can then tidy them all up as we go. There we go, good. And that will do for now. We'll have to figure out the colours and textures and everything, but that's a good start. Okay, now I'm going to go just for the paving slabs here. So I'm just going to, here we go. I say slabs, but they would just be the lines in the concrete where they poured the concrete, I guess. And I want these to be different shades, so you kind of get a little bit more idea that there's differences between those areas. Good. And then two more here, we'll get an idea of what we're dealing with. Oh, I'll make that darker actually. Make it darker as we go into the distance. Okay, now we can see if we're close. How close are we? Let's do a preview, the quick render a frame out, see how that looks. That's not too bad at all, is it? Can't see the end of the curve, but we kind of get a feel for it. Oh, I missed a bit. There we go. We missed this piece here, which I need to close that shape off so we get the shape. Yeah, I'm just going to make it just a slightly different color. There we go, should be good enough. And I think I like that. I'm just going to move the camera a little bit here so we can see that bit. There we go, that's looking alright, isn't it? We'll bring in some, I will come in and do some texture work on here, maybe add some gradients, maybe might need to put a little bit more of a grass texture on. We'll see how it looks when I get closer, but I like what we've got so far. Just going to turn off the road. I'm just going to do a quick curb here. Now that's ugly, isn't it? There we go. Again, like I said this earlier, but I don't think we're going to see this in the final render. But if it's there, then it's easy enough to do now, and I don't have to worry about it later. And I'm just going to do top, and that should be fine now. The top and the bottom of the curb. Okay, don't get stressed. Don't stress out about what's not ever going to be on the screen. I don't care about that, and we're not going to see it. And then this is going to be the end of the curb. And we got to project this. Where would that be? The car's in the way. I think it'll be about there, won't it? And let's make that bigger. Good. Okay, just going to make that curb. A big chunk of what we're doing here, we're just doing impressions. We're not really trying to get anything even close to photoreal. Oh, that did the there we go. And I'm just gonna, there will be a fence or a shrub or a mixture of along there, so we'll just something like that. Okay, what we see here, right, I've just tried to highlight that shape, but what I've done is it's oh, actually no, okay, we're good. I was thinking that the needed to add an extra point, but we don't, because I selected the wrong points there. Right, oops, make sure we catch the right ones. We're good. Now I'm just gonna give that a nice green. I'll make it a bit dark because it's farther away. I don't need to draw any attention to it. And I think I will go back to the sharp corners, and I'm just going to put a fence in right there. I think I'm just going to put it on the same layer. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to give it some more of a wooden kind of feel if I do that. And it's going to create shape. I'm just going to make it actually, I'll just pick a dark brown colour. Okay, I'm just going to hold down Shift and the down arrow. That moves the shape back on the same layer. It's not quite dark enough for my taste, but we can get a feel for what I need now. Always go back and do your renders. See how that, just do a preview so I can see where you're at. Are we going in the right direction? That's not too bad, is it? And I'm just going to move that fence back a little bit. One thing we can do on here, if we wanted to make it a little bit more looking like it's a real fence, I don't know if I need to do it, but I think I'll do it just so you can see how I would handle something like this. So if I want to do some fence posts, and I would just go quick fence post, get it to the size I want it. Going to create that. I'm also now going to make that darker, which I think I can do from there. There we go. Not too much darker, just enough, and I can put that where I want it. Good. And I can copy and paste and just move these down. Don't forget, as you get closer, they get bigger. Make sure I get hold of the right one. There we go. Oops. Select the right thing. And I'm going to do one more. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to highlight the grass, shift up arrow, and that brings that one forward in front of the fence. But I think I really do need to make that darker still, don't I? Something like that. We can tweak it once everything's in place. For the road, I'll be creating, I'll probably use the gradients on here. I won't have to do too much. So I like the road, I like the fence and the grass. Those shapes are decent. We had shadows and gradients and maybe some grass textures as well. I think I'm good on that one. What do I want to do at the back? So I think, whoops, there we go. At the back, I'll put a fence along the back here as well. And that goes behind the home on top of the road. Just going to call this a fence. Again, I'm just going to stay with the straight line with the sharp corners. Just going to do this, and that's going to head off there. That will also be where the neighbours will be anyway, so I'd rather go too far but not far enough. I'm going to create that. I'm going to use the same colour actually. Oh. Just going to use the same colour that I did with that other fence. Okay, well, we're getting there. I'm not going to worry too much about this because that's where the sign's going to be. That'll block some of this. But I do want to do some houses and some trees in the background. And I want to do some houses and trees. Maybe I'll do the houses and the garage as well. But you can probably tell actually with these houses because I got this image off Google Maps. Everything's all fisheye, so we'll have to straighten everything up and make it look decent. Which is what I had to do with the building here. Actually, you can see particularly at the back that building is different shape. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. So I think what I'd like to do though is, I've got the road, I want to do some, I'm just going to go really quick with these buildings at the back and those trees. And I want to put that, in this case I think I'll put it behind the road. And we'll just call it houses and trees. And I'm just going to make the houses quick. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to detail this at all. This is something actually I spotted. I used to see in comics when I was in England all the time. They would just hint at the outline of buildings that were in the background. And that's all I'm going to do. It's going to do a very simple shapes. And then we'll use colors and contrast to define what's there. And I'm going to do the same thing there. Like I said, super quick. And then I can guess back here where this house is. And I'm just going to do this. And again, we've got that kind of sketchy look to it, which could have some appeal. Who knows? A couple of windows. And I'll put another window there. And one there as well. And for no real reason, I'm going to try, when I've done this in the past, I just use kind of like a purple or a mauve colour. So I'm just going to highlight each of these shapes individually. I missed something. There we go. Create that shape. Again, I didn't necessarily go for black, but I was trying to just make that shape stand out. Ah, there we go. So in order for me to get the garage and the garage door into as separate shapes, I'm going to need to actually put another point in there just so we can differentiate the two shapes. I think you can see how that works. Now I've got that shape and that one there. And I'll just quickly create the shapes for this one as well. And then we can colour them all in together. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is now go with the colour, like going for like a bluey, kind of a mauvey, not quite purple. A little bit more red in there, I think. Something like that. Highlight that shape. Now I'm gonna we'll do that. Just make it a little bit darker so it stands out. There we go. So we're just using, they're just kind of hinting of those being houses there. And then I'm just going to very quickly add some trees in. And I'm just going to, but not with that tool. I need take the sharp corners off. I would often do, this would be something I would do with a stylus and my drawing pad, but I don't have it out at the moment. So I'm just going to quickly do this. Okay. So I'm just going to, a little bit of concentration required. Again, I'm not tracing this particular, I'm not really tracing the outline. I'm just kind of going with the general shape and body. I keep getting too many points in. I'm doing an extra points, which could cause problems later. And good. That's going to be under the road. I'm just going to finish that off over here. There we go. Right, now I'm just going to create that shape. I don't want it that color. I want it green. So we'll use we'll use the eyedropper. The eyedropper's on the highlights there apparently. Okay, and we'll push that back. So that's a shift and the arrow down. I don't think that's giving me what I need at all, is it? I'm going to make those green, a bit more green, but then a lot darker. I think I'm going to just find a color. I'm just looking for a color that will look better against that. Okay, just going to make that one a little darker. Okay, that's better. Doesn't stand out as much, but you kind of get a hint something's happening. And if we have a look at there, we've got another lot of trees. What we can do... No, we can't. I think we can do some copying and pasting, but I don't think I can. Just going to hint now at... Oh! I'm just going to do a hint at some other trees there, and that's going to overlap the house. I'm going to have to create it here, unfortunately. And that'll add a little bit of dimension there. Yeah, I'm not spending that much time on it. There's nothing that we're doing now that we can't fix later or we can't modify later. So do it quick, get it done, and then we can tweak it. Right, that's good. I'll grab that one. Oop. And I want to decide, do I want to make it lighter or darker? I think darker maybe. Okay, I'm going to make a change to the road. It's going up too high. Preview. There we go. That looks a little better, doesn't it? Just that little bit of that little blob there going over the front. That makes all the difference. And I think I'm just going to do a, let's see, a shape selection tool. Go to that new piece of tree I just did. I'm just going to copy it, copy, paste, and then I'm going to flip horizontally, and I'm just going to put one here. We can change shape just a little. This is why this is such an art. It's not a science by any means. So I'm just going to hide those bezier handles. Sometimes they get in the way. Okay. And of course, the closer we get, the more we get in here, we get done, the more times I'll be previewing it. So to close that. Now the question is, I don't like the way this is dipping, so I think I'm actually going to get those houses. Actually, maybe it'll just be all of the houses and trees, and just move those down just a smidge. Have a quick look, and that's better. Right, back to the road. I'm just going to tweak this like that. Turn the bezier handles back on, because now they're useful. Okay, great. Now what I could do now, what I'm going to try anyway, is I'm going to duplicate this layer. So houses and trees. I'm going to take what's now houses and trees too, and I'm just going to flip it just so that it looks different. And I'm going to drop that one behind that fence there. Let's move the camera and then we can do a quick preview. How does that look? That looks pretty good. And that filled that in nicely. So before I start worrying about details, I think I need to do the sky. Now I've got to decide, is this going to be a miserable day or is this going to be a sunny day? The script doesn't say whether it's a sunny day or not. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to say sky, call it sky. Just use the rectangle tool. That's our rectangle tool. Shape tool, select rectangle. And then I'm just going to put a sky in there. And we want to pick a colour. That looks a little too. There you go. Something like that. I'm going to pop the car back in there as well. So what do you reckon? That looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm just going to tidy this up now with some gradients. So we'll go with, I'm going to leave the back fairly flat for now. Don't think I need to do too much on that. But if we focus in on, actually the first thing I want to do is the road. So the road, which is this big piece, so we may want to break this up. It may not, but we may not be able to get the effects that we need. But let's give it a go. I'm going to go click on the road shape, which is that one big shape. Going to go to the shape effect, and I'm going to go gradients. It throws in white. I don't know why. It drives me nuts. I never use it. I'm just going to take the white out, use the color that's I've selected already, and then it throws a black in for a gradient. We can either, we got some options there, so angle, reflected, radial. I'm going to try radial and see if I can make that look nice or not, or whether I change it. Actually, that's not too bad at all. No. I think I've got too much happening in here altogether, right? So I'm actually going to go back into the gradient properties. I'm going to switch that back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to trade, so I can put the black in the middle, and then we'll see. Will that give me what I want, or do I have to figure out a different way to do the road? Nope, I'm not happy with it. Let's go to linear. Then we'll do something like, oh, that's right, that's better. That's kind of working. We'll preview quickly. There you are. It makes all the difference, doesn't it? Then we'll just move the camera. Preview again for the other side. There you go. That adds quite a lot of depth to it now. Good. I thought that was going to take longer there for a second. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do the same kind of thing with the sidewalk and the curbs. Sidewalk is there. It's easier to get to. Little gradient. I'm just going to get rid of the white. And then I'm going to decide. So I'm going to make those nice and long so that the gradient becomes softer. And decide where I want to put it. Well, I think I need to go in there and gradient properties and get rid of the black. So I'm just going to click next down here where it's a little bit darker but not quite as dark. Get rid of the black. And I'm going to move. Am I in the right place? I think so. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, so the gradients are snapping on and off is because I've actually got the shape effect turned off. Because if I don't, it will try and render all of the shape effects, all the gradients and everything else, and it slows my computer down. So I leave that turned off. I can turn it on and you can see it, but I'm going to turn them off because I can't afford a better computer. There we go. That's better. Good. That looks good now. And now I'm going to do the same thing. Gradients on that one. And I'm just going to pretty much remember what I did. So you just highlight that and then hit delete, and that deletes the, I'm not sure what you call that. I'm not sure if that's an arrow or a pencil. It's almost like a chewed off, half chewed pencil, isn't it? Yeah, just deciding where do I want the textures. I think I'll have it that way. Good. Gradient. So just highlighting the one I don't want. Click on it, single click, and then hit the delete key. Drag that over. I don't know if I need to do that one. We'll render it and find out. Oh, going shape effects, gradients. Single click delete on the one I don't want. Then move this until I can see where the gradient is. That looks good. So we'll see all these gradient handles that hang around. If you're not sure which handle goes where, you can just click on the shape and it'll go red. So that's the shape that it controls. Because it's possible to have this way over here, so that I can control it over here if that's, depending on how it looks. I might want to do this, and so on. So that would highlight the shape, and then the handle will go red. I'm just going to undo. That was just so I could show you. And then I'm going to do the grass. And oh, here we go. Yes, I couldn't remember what layer that was on. Again, I'm just going to use the gradients. Pretty much just do exactly the same thing until and I'm going to put the shading closer to the building on these ones. It just helps to anchor the building to the ground when you've got the gradient there. Right, I don't like that. I need it to be darker. So I want to make this one a bit darker. I'm just going to double click on it, pops up the color picker. I can then just adjust it the way I want it. You've got this up here to show you what the original and then what the new color is. There you go. That's good. I'm happy with that. Then we will go here. And we're basically doing the same thing. So I've learned my lesson. I want to make that a bit darker than the other one. There's no hard and fast rule about where the gradients should go. It's whatever feels good, I think. And on this one, I'm just going to click on it, hold Alt. If I click on the other grass shape, and it does the gradient and everything's already there waiting for me. I'm going to do that again. I might want to make this one darker though, we'll see. Right, how does that look? We will preview. Okay, how's that? That's not too bad at all. I like that. So let me see. I think we're pretty much done on this one. I think the only thing I want to put on here is some shadows, which I will go through the shadows with you there as well. So let's do the shadows first, and then I can decide if I want to put some grass textures in here or not. So I want the shadows to be under the building, so the retirement home is there, but I may want to put some shadows over the fence and over the curb, so I'm just going to create the new vector layer there. I'm going to call this shadows, call it shadows, shading, whatever makes sense to you. And then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put the shape effect on. Now I can see what we've got there. And I can decide where do I want the shading. I think what I do want is the curb is way too bright, so I might want to turn that down. Yeah, I think we're good. But back to the shadows. We can use sharp corners or not. I'm tending not to. I think I'm just going to... This will actually work in conjunction with the gradients here as well. So we're almost done here actually. This is, I think I'm almost at a place where I'd be happy to stop. Just gonna shading there. I'm gonna pull that right over there, I think. You can see how the shadows are going to look. Okay, right. So create the shape. Now what I want to do is I want to make this black. The shadow is black, and we obviously don't want to keep it black because it's going to look horrible. I shall show you that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to first thing actually I'm going to change the color. So just on the fill, make sure the right shape's highlighted. Click on the fill, and then change the alpha layer, which is down here. You'll see the number. You can enter the numbers in there if you like. But I'm going to put that down to about 2/3 of the way down, give or take. Now if I render it, you can see the difference. Now it's kind of got a bit see-through. I've got to make some changes here. So I think it needs to be a little lighter than that. So I'm just going to go back in here, make it a little bit more see-through. And I think that's fine. And now to make it more shadowy, I've got to change the effect to soft edge. And now I tend to leave it default. I don't try not, unless I know better, leave it at default until we've gone to have a look at it. Let's go look at the preview. Again, we're going to be looking back. That looks pretty good actually. That's not far off at all. I'm tempted though to take it down just a little bit, maybe down to 15-ish, 14. A lot of this is trial and error. Yep, I like that. Good. And now I'm going to lay some more shading. Now the sun is technically coming from our left. You can see the shadow in the doorway where I've put it there, but there's not much of a sun. I'm not declaring where the sun is. But what the shadows and the shading here can do is it can just anchor your building or your object to the ground. And we'll see if I can get this in. I'm just going to move that out of the way. Delete some shapes, I don't need that. Something like that. And then I'm going to create a new shape, just to be a little easier. There's no right and wrong way. Just going to create a shape just to help anchor this building to the ground. Yep, there we are. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. Okay, I'm just going to highlight it, create shape. It should remember the properties of the last shape. And if I preview that, there you go. So that helps glue it to the ground just that little bit more. So I'm going to add some more shape, some more shading. I'll be on the same layer. Everything's behind both sides of the building. I'm going to anchor this guy to the ground as well. And I'm actually going to hide that back there. Oop. Where's the edge? There we go. I'll find the end of my line. So something like that. Because of the soft edge, you don't have to worry about. Well, you're not going to see any real lines there. And I think we are about done. I have to move the camera just so I can catch that one there. Okay, so I could put another bush here. Put some details on if I want to. That's something we can decide later. But I'm happy with the overall, the way this has started out. This looks pretty good. I'm not going to put any texture on the grass at the moment because I think we're going to be. I've got some special brushes that I've created for grass texture, so maybe I can do a different video on that one, how to create your own textures using lines. So I think that is it for now. I'll do a quick render. I was just starting to render it and I realized I had missed something that was going to make all the difference. Is as we look at it now, the background, those details at the back which aren't really supposed to be that detailed, is very crisp and clear. That needs to be a little bit blurred out just so we get that feeling of distance. And the same with this building here, this side of the building. Also, we just need to take away some of the focus off that, literally by adding some blur to it. So I think first off I'm going to hit the far wing, and I'm just going to add some blur. So double click to bring up the layer settings, blur radius, and I'm going to put that at 3, and then I'm going to see what it looks like. Okay, good. See how that just adds a little bit of distance, between those two. I think that's certainly no more than that. And now I want to get the layer with the trees. And that is, so we've got the two different areas here. That is houses and trees. I'm going to give that a blur radius of 5. So this is 3. 5 is going to be more blurred. And we will see in just a second. We're going to go blur radius of 5. Okay, so now I'm just going to render this now. So file, export animation. I don't need to see the whole 10 seconds. I'm just going to shut that down at 144 frames, should be good. Override existing file. This is just going to drop everything in the same folder as the MOHO file. And I'm just going to let it go. Okay, so this is the finished render so far, and that looks pretty damn good to me. We've got a problem there, a little loop. I've got a problem with that building in the back. It looks like it's floating a little bit, sliding, but we can fix that. Either I can make the parallax effect more subtle, or I can do something with the path here so it looks like it's more moving with the building. We've got that flexibility, but as far as the build of this, I'm really pleased with this. Most of the action is going to happen around here when the characters start getting involved, just around the front of the building. So, other than some details, maybe some grass on the front. Where are we? I'm going to go the right way. You know, with maybe some grass textures. Could do that. Could add some clouds. But I don't think that there's anything really missing here. I'm quite pleased with that. It's got that kind of a semi-realistic kind of feel about it. But there's no doubt we're in a cartoon world. So this is looking good. Well, I hope you found this helpful. I've got lots more videos coming as I build and animate this new world that I'm creating. Redundant. Leave a comment and let me know what you think. And if you're interested in learning animation or improving your animation skills, then why not subscribe to I'm Alive Animation? I have. And don't forget, if you can imagine it, you can bring it to life.